I just backtested a strategy on some 1-minute Bitcoin data, and the initial results look really good. It's got a 53% win rate, 1.6 profit factor, and a huge 260% total return. The equity curve also looks really promising. But there's one really major problem with this strategy. And the problem is that this strategy is just a random number generator. If we take a look at the code, you can see that there's no logic to it at all. It randomly decides when to enter a trade, randomly decides how much risk to take, and it randomly decides when to exit a trade. So why does this obviously terrible strategy look so good in the backtest? Well, the answer is really simple. It's just pure luck. This strategy only takes long positions, and it got lucky during a bull market. This is the Bitcoin chart for the period that I backtested, and you can see that any strategy with a long bias would have done well in this market. And this is exactly the problem with most traditional backtests. They cannot separate luck from skill, because a random number generator can easily pass the same tests as a real strategy. In this video, I want to show you why this happens and what you can do instead. Welcome to Strict Systems. I'm a statistician by training, and I've been designing trading systems for over 7 years now. In this video, I want to answer 2 questions. Why are traditional backtests worthless, and how can we prove that a strategy actually works? Let's start with the first question. The core issue with traditional backtests is something called selection bias. Selection bias is a tricky statistical concept, and I think the easiest way to explain it is with an example. And for that example, let me introduce you to my favorite statistician of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo. Let's imagine that we have 2 Ronaldos, a red one and a green one. They're identical in every single way except color. So they have the same hairstyle, the same strength, and the same technique. And they decide to have a competition to see who can kick the ball the furthest. Red Ronaldo goes first and kicks the ball about this far. Then green Ronaldo goes, and his ball travels the exact same distance because they have the exact same amount of strength and they use the same technique. But now green Ronaldo decides to take a bunch of extra attempts. Due to random variation, sometimes the kick goes a little further than other times. If we conclude the game at this point, then green Ronaldo wins because green Ronaldo has the furthest kick. But this is obviously not a fair result because Cristiano had way more attempts. And this is exactly how selection bias works. If you have more attempts, then you also have more attempts at getting lucky. In this case, green Ronaldo has a much higher chance of getting lucky than red Ronaldo, so the results are not comparable anymore. So let's connect this to trading. The first point to note is that bad strategies can sometimes randomly look good, like the one that I showed you. And you can think of this as a false positive, something that looks good but actually isn't. The problem is that as you test more strategies, you are guaranteed to find more false positives as well. And these false positives are really bad for traders because we don't want to be trading bad strategies. And it gets even worse than that because there are way more false positives than true positives, meaning there are way more bad strategies that look good than actually good strategies. So we need a good way to deal with this selection bias. To filter out these false positives, most experienced traders use a technique known as out-of-sample testing. The idea is simple. Let's imagine that we're backtesting 10 strategies. The first thing we do is we split our backtest data into training and validation sets. Then we test our 10 strategies on the training data. And after we do this, we'll probably find a few strategies that look good. But at this point, we won't be able to tell if they look good because they are good or if they look good because of selection bias. Let's say there's one strategy out of 10 that looks way better than all the other ones. And we want to make sure that it's not just a false positive. What we can do is we can retest that one strategy on our validation data. The idea being that if we only test one strategy on the validation data, then we don't have any selection bias issues because we're not selecting from anything. We only have one strategy. And this is a valid approach to backtesting. If your strategy works on the training data and the validation data, then there's a good chance that it's a real strategy, and if it's profitable, you could start trading it. But unfortunately, this approach to backtesting only works once, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Let's imagine that we backtest 10 strategies every single day. After 10 days, that means we tested 100 strategies on our training data, and we validated our 10 best strategies on our validation data. Do you see what the problem is here? If you don't, take a second to pause the video and try to figure it out. So the problem here is step 3. The point of the validation step is to filter out false positives created by selection bias. If you only test one strategy on your validation data, this works. But if you validate multiple strategies on the same data set, then selection bias becomes a problem again. Some of those validated strategies will look better than others purely due to random chance. And if we validate enough strategies, at some point a terrible strategy will slip through our validation step. And the worst part is that you won't find out that it's terrible until you start trading it and you start losing money. So what can we do to fix this? Well, we could add another validation step, and that would look something like this. But just like before, that approach only works once. If we repeat this process at some point, then we'll need to add another validation step, and another validation step, and so on and so on. So in the long run, this approach doesn't work. And here's the point I'm trying to make. If you only use out-of-sample testing to filter out false positives, at some point you will run into one of two problems. You will either run out of data, which is really bad, or you'll run into selection bias, which is also really bad. Out-of-sample testing is a very useful tool, but it doesn't solve selection bias. So at this point, we have a pretty good understanding of the problems with traditional backtests. Now let's try to answer the second question. How can we prove that a strategy actually works? Well, let's first rephrase the problem with a traditional backtest. We can say that a traditional backtest asks, was this strategy profitable or not? But we know that this is not really a good question because a bad strategy can also be profitable if it gets lucky, and bad strategies can get lucky all the time. So we need a better question. A better question would be something like, was this strategy more profitable than random chance? To help us answer this question, let's first consider the following. All good strategies have one thing in common. They take advantage of a real and consistent pattern in the market. So if we destroy those patterns, all that's left is random noise and the strategy should stop working. So if we had a way to destroy those patterns, then we could do a backtest like this. First, we backtest our strategy on the real training data. Then we destroy the patterns, which leaves us with a randomized version of the training data. We can then test our strategy on the randomized data as well, and once we've done that, we can see if our strategy works better on the real data or on the randomized data. If our strategy performs better on the real data, that means it's exploiting real patterns, which means our strategy is a good strategy. So at this point, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do we destroy those patterns? And in fact, it's even more difficult than that. Not only do we need to destroy the patterns, but we also need to preserve the statistical properties of the data, because if we don't, then we're comparing apples to oranges. At first glance, this kind of sounds like a trick question. How can we destroy the patterns in the data while at the same time preserving the data? But there's actually a really beautiful solution, and it's so simple that I can explain it to you in less than 30 seconds. The technique I'm talking about is called permutation. And permutation is just a fancy word that means putting things in a different order. You can think of it like shuffling a deck of cards. So here's how it works. Let's say that this is our backtesting data. If we then permute the data, we get something like this. As you can see, all we did is we put the price movements in a new random order, but the actual data, the candlesticks, are still the exact same. This is how permutation works. Easy, right? But before we get too carried away, let's check if this technique actually reaches our objectives. It should destroy the patterns in the data and preserve the statistical properties. By doing permutation, we are randomizing the order of the price movements. And by randomizing the order, we're breaking the connections between related price movements. So price movements that used to be connected are now completely disconnected. So if all the price movements are completely disconnected, that's another way of saying that all the original patterns were destroyed. So we can definitely say that permutation successfully destroys the patterns. But what about preserving the statistical properties? Well, this one's even easier to prove. All we did was change the order of the data, so the actual data is still the exact same. And if the data is the same, that means that the statistical properties are also the exact same. So the only difference between the real and permuted data is that the real patterns were replaced by fake ones. Now that we understand how permutation works, let's get back to our ideal backtesting setup. We can destroy patterns with permutation, which means that we have everything we need to carry out the first 3 steps. So now let's focus on the 4th step. How should you compare the performance on the real data to the performance on the permuted data? Let's look at some examples. Let's say we backtest a strategy on some real data and we get an 80% win rate. Then we test the same strategy on permuted data and we get a 40% win rate. In this case, it's pretty obvious that our strategy performs better on real data, so we can say that our strategy is better than random. But now let's consider a different example. Now our real win rate is 55% and our permuted win rate is 54%. Is this strategy still better than random? Well, maybe it is, but I'm not as confident about this strategy as the previous one. This shows us that we don't just want to know if our strategy is better than random. We also want to know how much better than random it is. Now that we improved our question, we also need to improve our backtesting setup so that we can answer the question. But the fix is very simple. Instead of testing our strategy on a single permuted dataset, we can generate 1,000 permuted datasets, where all of the datasets have a different random order. This lets us measure how consistently the strategy beats randomness. By making this adjustment, we can also turn our vague question into an objective numerical question. Instead of asking how much better than random is our strategy, we can now ask, how often does the strategy perform better on real data than on permuted data? Let's visualize how this works in practice with some graphs. Let's say we test a strategy on some real data and we get a 55% win rate. Now we permute the data once and we get a permuted win rate of 50%. If we only make this one comparison, we would assume that our strategy works because the real performance is better than the permuted performance. But now let's see what happens if we test our strategy on 1,000 permuted datasets instead of just one. Now we get a distribution of permuted win rates instead of a single value, and we can see that the permuted performance is better than the real performance about 200 times out of 1,000. That's 20%, which is pretty high. So if our randomness beats our strategy 20% of the time, that's a strong indication that our strategy is not very good. A better strategy would have a much lower percentage, closer to 0. But the main takeaway here is that we can use that percentage to quantify how good our strategy is. We can also think of this percentage as a ratio. We just divide the number of times that randomness beats our real strategy by the number of total permutations. And this value works exactly like a p-value. The closer to 0 our p-value is, the more confidence we can have that our strategy is a good strategy. So how low should your p-value be? In scientific literature, a p-value below 0.05 is considered statistically significant. That means there's less than a 5% chance that the result is due to luck. But for trading, I recommend being stricter. There are millions of possible strategies you could test, and most of them are completely useless. If you use 0.05 as your threshold, you'll end up with a lot of false positives, strategies that look good but are actually just lucky. I personally like to use a p-value of 0.01 or even lower. This gives you more confidence that you found something real, but the exact cutoff is not super important. It depends on the rest of your backtesting setup and on your personal preferences. So now let's get back to our ideal backtesting setup. We now know everything we need to carry out all 4 steps. Because we're using permutations and a very small p-value, the risk of selection bias is very strongly reduced. But if we test enough strategies, we will eventually still run into some false positives. To filter out the remaining false positives, we can add a final validation step where we repeat steps 1 through 4 on a separate dataset. So essentially, we're combining permutation with out-of-sample testing. And for the astute listener, yes, it's technically still possible that a bad strategy could pass the permutation test on both the training set and the validation set, but this is extremely rare. In my personal experience, selection bias is almost never an issue when using this setup. The permutation step is really good at filtering out false positives, so most bad strategies don't even make it to the validation step. So let's put all of this into practice by retesting the random strategy from the beginning of the video, but this time we'll use permutation testing. On the traditional backtest, we got a 53% win rate, 1.6 profit factor, and a 262% return. These are the results on the real data, but now let's add in the permuted results. We can immediately see that the real results do not consistently outperform random chance. The metrics look good on paper, but not because of any skill in the strategy. All of the p-values are way too high, so we know that this strategy is definitely not worth pursuing. That also means that we don't need to waste any time validating it. So this is permutation testing. In my opinion, permutation testing is the most objective and most reliable method to prove if a trading strategy has a real edge. If you want to try it for yourself, there's a link in the description to the code that I used for this video. If you found it useful, please leave a like and subscribe. This is my first ever YouTube video, so if you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section, or you can reach out to me on Twitter. Thanks for watching, happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.